Hello. In this video, we're going to find the vertex and axis of symmetry of f of x equals x squared plus 2x minus 5 and put it in standard form. Then we're going to find the domain and range and any x and y intercepts. Then we're going to graph it. Now remember, to find the x coordinate of the vertex, you have to use the formula h equals negative b over 2a. B in this problem is 2, so that's negative 2 over 2 times a, which is 1. So this is just negative 2 divided by 2, which is just negative 1. The k value is f of negative 1. So this is going to give me negative 1 squared plus 2 times negative 1 minus 5. Simplifying, we get 1 minus 2 is negative 1 minus 5 is negative 6. Fantastic. So the vertex is going to be negative 1, negative 6. Now in standard form, this is going to be x minus negative 1 is just plus 1 squared plus k, but that k is negative 6, so it's minus 6 at the end here. Now let's go ahead and look at the axis of symmetry. The axis is just going to be x equals the x coordinate of the vertex, which is just negative 1. The domain is all real numbers every time. And the range. Now notice that the leading coefficient is positive here. So because of that, it starts at the y value of the vertex and goes up to infinity because it opens upward. Next, we want to look at the x-intercepts, if there are any. Now notice that in the range here, negative 6 is part of the range, so there's going to be x-intercepts. So what we're going to do is set the function equal to 0. So that's x plus 1 squared minus 6 is equal to 0. So you can add 6, which means x plus 1 squared is equal to 6. Use the square root property, which means x plus 1 equals plus or minus the square root of 6. And then subtract 1. And that's going to give me x equals negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 6. So those are your two x coordinates of the x-intercepts. So it's negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 6. And don't forget that the y value is 0. And yes, it must be in coordinate form. Now, if we look at the y-intercept, well, that's always 0, comma, whatever the y-intercept is. Now, it's easiest to look at the general form, and that means that negative 5 is the y value here. So it's 0, negative 5. But if you're given the standard form and not the general form, just plug it in. 0 plus 1 is 1, 1 squared is 1, and then 1 minus 6 is negative 5. Fantastic. Okay, so we've found the vertex, the axis, the domain and range, and any x and y intercepts. Now we're going to graph it. We're going to start out with the axis of symmetry. So I'm going to draw a vertical dotted line at x equals negative 1. Then I'm going to graph the vertex, which is negative 1, negative 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, I can also graph the y-intercept, which is 0, negative 5. So there's a point right there. And because there's a point there, there must also be a point there. But that shouldn't be any surprise, because if you go right 1 from the vertex, you go up 1, because it's 1 squared. Now if you go right 2 from the vertex, you go up 4, because that's 2 squared. And because it's symmetric with respect to the vertical line here, there must be a point here as well. Now if I go right 3, I go up 9, which means there must be a point right here as well. Fantastic. Here's your vertex, so go ahead and just kind of draw it. as smooth as possible. It's kind of hard to do it on a computer. Alrighty. Well, have fun. I'll see you next time.